Hi, I'm Dr. Jill from Delta Neuro Health, and today I'm going to talk to you, give a short presentation on functional medicine principles concerning diet, nutrition, food, drink, etc. So let's get started. Going to share my screen with you. Hopefully everyone can see the first slide here. So the title of my presentation is Eat More Whole Foods, and we are going to discover why that is important, especially in today's changing landscape. First, I'd like to talk about that there is no one way of eating that is right for everyone. There's always going to be a certain debate about somebody eating vegan versus carnivore or paleo, etc. There's a lot of different types of diets out there. And really, it depends on the individual, their genetics, their lifestyle, a lot of other factors that go into what makes a diet or nutrition plan work for somebody. And we're really not going to be discussing that part too much today. We're really going to be looking at how we can incorporate more whole food choices and the just underlying principles of things to look at in general when we're making those choices. So there are a few things that I'd like to go over concerning food. And one is the difference between macronutrients and micronutrients. So as you can see, the macronutrients we commonly look at on a nutrition label are protein, fat, and carbohydrates. And a lot of times people look at these on a nutrition label and it's what's adjusted perhaps by a registered dietitian, nutritionist, et cetera, when they were talking about a specific diet, eating more protein, carnivore, things like that. But we're not going to be discussing that. I'm not going to give you a lot of advice today because it's highly individualized. When you're looking at macronutrients, it's a lot based on somebody's age, what they're going through in their life, male or female, etc. So there's a whole range of factors that need to go into that and deciding that. So I'm just going to throw that out there that there are macronutrients. There's different ways you can definitely adjust those, but that's not going to be our main focus today. And then there are micronutrients, and we're going to be looking just very briefly in general at those. And those are what are commonly referred to as vitamins and minerals. And these are very much needed, especially in today's society with a lot of landscape changes and soil and climate changes, et cetera. We're needing these more than ever for optimal health and also to help obviously prevent disease too. So I think there are a lot of individuals that are lacking certain vitamins and minerals in their diet despite trying to incorporate more in their diet. But we're going to look at ways to start and to at least get some of those on board. So as I discussed, there may not be a certain per se diet in terms of not losing weight type of diet, but just the way of eating that works for every individual. But there's going to be a few principles that we're talking about today. And the first we're going to explore would be decreasing harmful chemical ingestion by looking at what's in your food. Turning over, if it's a packaged or processed food, it should have, besides the nutrition label, it should also have an ingredient list. So turning that package over and looking at what's in your food. And you'd be surprised at what you would find. There are a lot of things in packaged food that you may not be able to pronounce or not familiar with it. It's definitely something your great grandmother, great grandfather would go out when making a homemade meal or something at home and saying, oh, I need this chemical to put in my food to stabilize it, to help preserve it for longer shelf life, to inhibit growth of certain bacteria or fungi, etc. So we're really going to be looking at that in the first half of the presentation about what is in our food and becoming more aware of that is really my ultimate goal, helping one increase their knowledge of that. And then the second half, we'll look at being able to increase nutrient load by eating more whole foods and why that is so important. So general food principle, if you come away with nothing else from this presentation, just trying to incorporate more whole foods into your diet when possible. Just starting slowly. If you're not doing much at all, then just trying maybe one whole food a day. That's great. Maybe even if you need slower, a couple times a week, that's great. And slowly see what you can do over time. I think a lot of patients, as they begin to eat better, they begin to feel better. And when you feel better, you begin to want to eat even cleaner, etc. So just starting slow, start where you're at. If you are eating fast food every single day, then maybe going down to 5 days a week. Just somewhere to start. Just start somewhere and go from there. So the first principle, which I said we would go over, we're going to be looking at what's in our food, and therefore some of the chemicals and things that we find in our food that we probably are not aware are even there. So I like to put these pictures up as examples. When we go to a grocery store, supermarket, etc., we find the produce section, and there's a wide array of fruits and vegetables that don't have any product labeling, any packaging on them. And why is that? Because we know what is in this food. It's a carrot, it's a cucumber, a zucchini, a radish, celery, etc. We know exactly what's in it. It's just what we pick up, as opposed to a packaged or processed food where there can be many different things added to it to make it shelf stable, to make it taste better, so consumers want to buy it more and eat more of it, etc. So there's a big difference of just trying to show examples and pictures of what per se constitutes a whole food. It doesn't have much added to it in terms of ingredients. It's just what is grown out in the fields is what is consumed and eaten in the food. So what we're looking at today is with a current food and drink landscape. I think this is what some of the issues are today. And there's many that I probably haven't included on the slide too, but just summarizing some of the things that I think really affect us these days. Is that many buy and consume highly processed food items on a regular basis. A lot of people have families, they work, they just don't have a lot of time to go and cook big meals or just meals every single day, etc. So a lot of times we have to grab what's convenient. And so a lot of times too, what we like, especially if we're stressed, we don't get enough sleep, etc., those can all lead to cravings, etc. And then sometimes, as I've briefly alluded to, what is in the food itself makes it very addicting, that whoever produces the food or sells the food wants you to buy more of it. So they do taste tests. They know what, gets that dopamine system to light up and want you to come back and buy more. So a lot of these processed packaged foods are high in salt, sugar, fat, and carbs. And that makes this a great thing for our brain to say, I want more, I want more. And a lot of those items are going to be chips, tortillas, pastries, cookies, muffins, crackers, bread, and others as well. You can all imagine in the same group. So a lot of those processed foods, a lot of times they are low in nutrients and high in calories. So they don't really do much for our bodies and for our overall health. A lot of people today don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. One of the big things too, I know I didn't mention it on the first slide with the macronutrients, but one thing besides protein, carbs, and fat to really look at is fiber. This is a huge deal. I think it is severely lacking today in Western American diet. It does so much for our GI system in terms of the good bacteria that grow there. Having enough dietary fiber really helps those good guys grow in your gut and do so much. It'd be a whole nother discussion, a whole nother lecture or topic presentation going into the microbiome, or the good and sometimes the bad bacteria that live there. But really, dietary fiber is so important, and it's really minimized in today's Western diet. So that's another thing that goes against our health. I have another slide coming up that will talk a little bit about added sugar and all the different names. And added sugar is rampant. You'll find it in things that are supposed to be savory, and there's always added sugar. A lot of times, once again, we're going to look at going and looking at ingredient labels and turning over that package and seeing what's in it. And a lot of times you'll find sugar in it. No matter what it is, there's going to be added sugar because it makes it more palatable a lot of times, and sometimes more addicting. You want more of it. So everybody has, I think a lot of people want that taste because they're so used to it. And then obviously going back to convenience and time, eating out is a frequent occurrence for a lot of people in today's society. And unfortunately, when we go out, depending on the restaurant or how many questions we feel comfortable asking or what we ask of our waiter, waitress, server, but we really don't have a lot of control over the way our food is prepared. It may give a description on the menu, but what type of oil it's cooked in, what is added to the food. Is there a lot of times there's a lot of added salt and sugar. Once again, they want you coming back to the restaurant. So a lot of things are added that are really out of our control and that we just don't have any knowledge of. And obviously there's a spectrum of, good, better, best. And, there's the McDonald's, fast food type, Wendy's, etc. And then all the way up to, like a fine dining where you probably could request more and you obviously are paying more for it too. So, get better meat, etc. But also when you eat out too, you don't have a lot of times you have a choice of where you go in terms of looking at menus before you go there. But a lot of times the quality of the meat too may not be that great. You might be getting factory farmed meat, unless it says it's organic meat or it's gotten locally or from regenerative farming practices, the food, etc. Then really you don't know how they obtained that food and how the quality of the meat, etc. So another thing to think about. And then kind of going towards drinks too. A lot of people are overworked, they're tired, they're stressed, they have a lot going on today. So I'm going into coffee and caffeine and talking about that just briefly, but there are some benefits to coffee depending on the individual. It is a source of polyphenols. I'm not saying coffee and caffeine is necessarily bad, but we have to start looking at it when one is using it more for, say, a drug to get through the day or to even get out of bed. When someone says to me, oh, I can't even get going or function or do anything until I start having my first sips of coffee or my first cup of coffee, then that's kind of a signal that something, we're using that coffee as a crutch or almost per se like a drug in order to get through the day. And that's when it kind of becomes a little bit of alarming, something that we need to look into further. And that's kind of, culture too. And like just watching TV shows and it's commonly embraced and all the themes and sayings, you got to get up and get going and get your coffee. And there it is, like I said, there are benefits to it, but in general, we just have to look and see how we're using coffee or caffeine and other caffeinated beverages too. And then to the same extent, some use alcohol to provide relaxation and to de-stress at the end of the day. So once again, this is a whole other topic and conversation. It has to be very individualized. But once again, when we're using alcohol as a common thing some people use caffeine to wake up in the morning and then alcohol to calm down, distress, go to sleep at bedtime. So once again, it's kind of when you're starting to use alcohol as a drug or a way to, to de-stress, to unwind, to relax. Like there's nothing else that can be done. You need something in that way. And that's when, once again, it's something I think that needs to be looked at a little bit further and to kind of go and look at other lifestyle factors, perhaps that could be changed to begin to make better changes for overall health. And once again, it's highly individualized. And as I just said with coffee too, you have all your advertising and commercials, which you always have movies or TV shows that show, a group of women getting together and they have to have a glass of wine in their hands, or men can't watch football without their beer, or think of all the Super Bowl commercials. I mean, it's very glamorized today, and a lot of it goes with society in terms of putting that all together and making it look like it's a very normalized thing to constantly be doing and to always be doing when you're with friends. And so going back to looking at nutrition labels versus ingredient lists too. So obviously on the left, you have your nutrition label, which goes over your macros, such as, you can see your fat, your fiber, your protein, or your carbs. And that's why I think what a lot of people generally look at when they look at packaged food. But what I would encourage you to do is to look at the ingredient list as well and see, what am I putting into my body? What is going in there? And I think you will be amazed if you go to your pantry and turn over some of the foods that you have and challenge yourself to see if you know what those ingredients are. And if you don't know what they are, or a lot of them, or you're seeing a long list, probably question, is this something that I should be eating on a regular basis, or is there something I can do to make a better choice, et cetera, and start to investigate and see what's in your food. So I have a few food comparisons. Once again, just eating whole foods. So potatoes are often villainized due to blood sugar. We have a lot of, pre-diabetics, diabetics in this country. But in general, a potato, it's a whole food. There's nothing added to it. You don't need a nutrition label. You can go to the store, you can buy a potato. Yes, it's high in carbs. Or sorry, you can go to the store and buy a potato without any nutrition label. And yes, it's high in carbs, but there are, vitamins and minerals in it, etc. It is a whole food. Obviously, when you make French fries into it, or especially at a fast food place, there are a lot of things added to that to make the taste profile that consumers want to keep going back for more and more. So when you look at French fries, yes, a large portion of that is potatoes, but then you also have seed oils such as vegetable oils or canola, corn, soybean oil, etc. Apparently McDonald's, when I pulled this up at the time, they had at least had a natural beef flavor, which has wheat for any celiac or gluten sensitivity, that would be out in wheat and milk derivatives. So dairy sensitivity has dextrose, which is another name for sugar, a preservative, or I'm not quite sure even what sodium acid pyrophosphate is, but that's added there, and then salt. So obviously a big difference between a whole food and something highly processed. And then you can see, obviously, whole chicken breast. You can get this to make, chicken dishes at home. And obviously, it does take some prep work, etc. But, when you turn over the back of the raw chicken, it's just going to be chicken. Nothing's added to it. It's just the animal product. And then when you look over here, when you do something like chicken nuggets and you look at the ingredient list, you can see all these different things added to it: textured soy protein, caramelized sugar, maltodextrin, which is something to, in general, try to stay away from. Not the best. Has more sugar, etc. So just a bunch of things that are added to it that your body has to deal with, it has to take in, it has to detoxify, etc. So obviously there's different degrees of foods, just showing you basically the whole form of the food, and then something that's highly processed. So just something to think about. So here's two processed products as well, but here we have a brand called Siete, which is pretty clean overall. I think most of us would recognize most of these ingredients. I mean, cassava is kind of a trendier, healthier flour that one may not recognize, but it's just a clean type of flour. But it has, in general, the ingredient list is pretty clean. Just garlic powder, onion powder, dill, parsley. So it makes the list looks a little bit longer, but a lot of those are some spices. And then you go over to, a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos, and you see all of these additives where, like I said, I don't think a lot of consumers turn the bag over to look and see what they are eating, but the maltodextrin, again, vegetable oils, which are the seed oils, MSG, which is the monosodium glutamate, the cornstarch, dextrose. You have all these artificial colors, which have been shown to just have really bad health effects overall, especially in children, etc. So, and you have a few things at the end. I don't even know what they are. I don't even really how to pronounce. I'll pronounce them perhaps. So yeah, just something to think about if you really, want something quick or convenient, or you just are really, per se, craving something. Even if you want to buy something packaged, there are still different degrees on a spectrum of packaged food as well. So at least you could try to perhaps start finding something that's a little bit healthier on the packaged scale as well. Packaged food scale. And then one more, once again, especially with Halloween around the corner here at current time. But when you look at M&Ms, it has all of the artificial dyes, once again, the yellows and blues, reds, etc. And then cornstarch, etc., waxes, gums. And once again, this is still a packaged process. You're still going to have the same glucose spike in terms of that there's still sugar in here. There may not be as much, I'm not sure, without the nutrition label. But yeah, so it's still sugar. It's still going to release insulin, etc. But at least the ingredients, they make it with the color comes from beet juice, carrot juice, etc. So more natural forms of coloring. It's organic cane sugar. So the sugar source at least is going to be cleaner. Your body won't have to process as much. It's not as, per se, the same degree of that your liver is going to have to, go through, try to look through all of these ingredients and etc. So you get what I'm saying after this, these last few pictures, I'm sure. But once again, just looking at different options and seeing if there's a better option out there that is better for your overall health and body. And once again, it's still treat, still sugar, but it's a healthier version without all these other harmful, or say, I'd say definitely they're chemicals. So staying away from all these chemicals. And the Environmental Working Group, which is termed the EWG, every year they put out a Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. So the 2024 normally comes out, I think, middle of the year. So that one came out. And so these are the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And so just if you have a budget and you're trying to look at ways to, what do I really need to spend my money on in terms of organic and clean, et cetera, the EWG does a great job of doing the research for us in terms of how much pesticides, et cetera, are found on a lot of the produce. So the Dirty Dozen are known to be the ones, if you have the budget and can try to buy those organic, they should have less chemicals and less pesticides, et cetera, on them. So they're best if you buy them organic. And then the Clean 15, you may not have to worry about as much. You can just buy the conventionally grown ones because when they've been tested, they've been found to have less chemicals and pesticides, sprays, things to help, try to help with the growth of the plant, keep bugs off, et cetera, pests off. So these you have a better bet of if you're getting the conventional part of that food. So you have 15 that are clean, yeah, and only 12 that are dirty. So that's and that's normally what they go after. They give you Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. So just something to keep watching every year, maybe updating when you remember, and just looking at that when you're making grocery lists, etc. You can just help your body with the burden of having to get rid of some of those chemicals. And this list may be from the last year. I'm not sure if this is from 2024, maybe a year or two ago, but the Environmental Working Group also does a Dirty Dozen food chemicals and the top 12 to avoid. So once again, when you're turning over those food packages and you're looking at ingredients, just looking if you find any of these, that's probably a good thing to try to put back on the shelf and see if there's something else that you can get in its place. And I mean, I just want to say the artificial colors and the artificial sweeteners, those really disrupt gut and are a lot to take in for the body. They just something you really want to try to avoid. But anything that you find on this page and kind of gives examples of things that it's found in, just if you can try to avoid these. And once again, just look at the back of the packages and see what you're finding. And then I know I said too, we have a slide coming up about possible names for sugar on ingredient labels. So this isn't an all-inclusive list either. These are just some that I know of. And some are definitely much more natural, like maple syrup, et cetera, coconut sugar. But these, what they have in common is that they all still are sugar. They all, can raise blood sugar and insulin release and all of that. But it's not like you're going to turn over a package and always say cane sugar, or we'll just say sugar. These are all names, and there's more out there, I'm pretty sure of, that would be names for sugar. So sometimes they can be kind of sneaky and try to disguise it, or they may not even realize that what it is sugar. And you can always go back to the nutrition label as well and look at, they have added sugar now too. They have sugar and then added sugar. So you could go back and look at that as well. But just something that there's so many different forms of sugar out there. It can be really confusing for individuals or for consumers. So that was the first part of the presentation in terms of really trying to take in less that our body needs to detoxify, less chemicals, less toxins, et cetera. So just by doing that, you'll really be helping yourself out. And then the second part, it's really brief, but the other thing we really hope to gain by eating more whole foods is if you're eating more whole foods, you're most likely bringing on more nutrients on board into your body, because a lot of whole foods naturally have more vitamins and minerals and things that the body needs. So just a brief refresher, vitamins, we've all heard of the big vitamins, vitamin A, all the Bs, there's a lot of B vitamins, and these are some of the names you may have heard more commonly. C, D, E, K1 and K2. And then minerals are calcium, magnesium, zinc, copper, chromium, iron, manganese, and selenium. And these are both very critical for health, and getting enough of them is critical as well to function and power our bodies through everything it needs to do every day. So I just picked one, how important are nutrients? So for example, magnesium, this is one I believe that a lot of Americans don't get enough of these days, especially even if we try through some of our food sources, just the way our food's grown today with the soil and crops, et cetera. Not having all, regenerative farming, et cetera. It can definitely be lacking. So magnesium, though, is a mineral that is needed for more than 300 enzymatic reactions in the body. So without a deficit of magnesium, you can see a lot of reactions may have trouble taking place. And so magnesium is often known to help as a relaxing mineral. It definitely helps with bowel motility. I mean, it's part of a lot of colon preps, and a lot of the people who are constipated, maybe something like use over the counters you go to, it has magnesium. So it definitely has a natural laxative effect too. So those who are chronically constipated may perhaps be lacking magnesium. It can help with, definitely help with headache. And even in hospitals, they give it to help with headache and migraine, etc. Can potentially help with hypertension, muscle cramping. So I think a lot of us know these about magnesium as well. It's one of the ones I think that's becoming more and more, more lights being shed onto it. And we're learning, I think it's becoming more mainstream is what I'm trying to say. But once again, this is just one mineral I'm talking about, not talking about the other vitamins. I'm not talking about the other minerals, but this is just one mineral, and you can see how important this one is. So what about all the others too we need to bring on board? And so somebody who's dealing with a headache, I thought this chart was interesting, courtesy of SpectraCell. But when you look at headaches, all of these different carnitine, lipoic acid, vitamin C, vitamin B12, folate, all of these vitamin minerals, other things can make an impact on headache. And once again, headache is multifaceted. There's many things that go into it. So this is just looking at it from a nutrient standpoint. There can be many other causes. So it's not the simplified for sure. But these are just looking at, once again, certain nutrients that may be missing that can lead to the development of headache or potentially help if we replenish these. Same for anxiety, nutrients that can impact anxiety. Look at all of these different ones that go into the help with a calming effect. And, we have a society today, I think, where we always talk about anxiety a lot, and things, we can help our body with, bringing these nutrients on board by eating more foods that contain these whole vitamins and minerals will, overall just help us with a lot of different things. I only showed headache and anxiety, but as I'm sure you can begin to see that it can really help a large variety of different things that may be going on with one's health. So once again, I just wanted to go over that last part. Really, whole foods are beneficial too for getting, a lot of times though, they should have, less toxins, less chemicals for sure, because they're whole food. They're not packaged and processed and put on a shelf. And then also whole foods have lots more vitamins, minerals, etc. for your body. So getting those on board can really help with your overall health. So with that being said, just a brief presentation, a brief introduction to whole foods and what they can do for your body. And I just wanted to thank you for your time. If you would like to look further into working with me, perhaps booking an appointment, I do want to put out there that discovery calls are free and happy to do one with you at any time. If you're interested in doing a discovery call or going ahead and booking an appointment, you can either call the front desk at Delta Neuro Health, and there's the phone number. And then you could also email me, and that is my email address as well. So thank you once again for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.